together, like A and B come together and create C.
Right.
But most times you can like identify this is from this style and this is from this style when people fuse. So to me that's a blend.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if you still do Bharatanatyam, but like in the classical Indian dances they're really clear about not fusing. They blend, and you like the Kathak element stays pure Kathak and the other element stays pure of the other style.
Right.
So as long as you can identify it, to me it's not fusion per se. I think that, like fusion can happen in two ways. It can happen within a style, or like reaching without, like outside of that style. It can happen within a like geographical region, or bringing in influences from another region.
Mm-hmm.
So, like for example, in Egypt, if you're bringing in ballet, which is a European dance form,
mm-hmm.
it looks like you're doing something foreign. Whereas if you bring in Khaliji influences, it's in the Middle East, but it's not from Egypt actually. So,
and also, even you bring in these, ballet, which
right.
was, not from the Middle East.
It has changed in order to adjust to where it's used.
And if somebody 50 years ago, 100 years ago also might not realize how much their dance has already completely changed by commerce and trade and travel. So already ballet influences already had affected Middle East, and also you had the arabesque,
But if you look at the other end, if you look at the other end, there's been a lot of exchange between the Arab world and India way before the Europeans even got to India.
Mm-hmm.
So, like if you go further back, you'll see that, for example, in the Khalij area, there's a lot of gestures that are similar, and in India there are gestures that are similar.
Where's the Khalij area?
Pardon?
Where's the Khalij?
The Persian Gulf, like Arabian Gulf.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which leads us into fusion.
Yes.
And the videos that I've seen from yours seem to be more ethnically correct or from a traditional background. And I haven't seen you do much what I would consider, tribal fusion or blending of different dance forms.
Okay.
And so I wanted you to talk about that, if that was for you really a conscious decision, or how do you decide what you're going to perform and what you're not going to perform?
I come from an Indian background, born and raised in Norway. I'm doing fusion already.
Right.
Just in my makeup, I have two completely different thoughts that agree with each other.
Yeah.
So for me, I've done ballroom and Latin. I have done some.
It's going to come out anyway.
Somewhere along the line, I've done some African dances. I've done some Latin dances. I've done some Polynesian dances. I have danced swing. Mm-hmm. But my makeup, for me, geographically, I am moving out of the range of where I am from. Like I think when people do fusion, they move away from what their training is, or involve other elements of what their core training is. Mm-hmm. And my core training is Indian folk dances from Punjab. So I take the route from there to the Arabian Gulf, meet Khaliji, and then Egyptian. And I've done like line dances from Europe. In school we have to learn Norwegian folk dances when we go to school in Norway. So for me, like when people ask the question about fusion, am I fusing? I can't tell. I'm just expressing what my total makeup is of. And after 7 years in the US, there's probably elements of that too. But I haven't gotten to that level of consciousness in my work where I focus more on what is the key to what I'm doing versus doing it. Mm-hmm. So when people ask me about fusion, I say, I as an artist cannot afford to look past good dance, no matter what style it is. There's too little good dance in the world, and I want to see all of it. So if I limit myself visually, like how I get stimulated visually, to only seeing this because this is what I do, then how am I going to grow? As far as tribal fusion, I have some really good dance colleagues that dance tribal fusion, and they are amazing at what they do. Again, it's one of those things where if I don't do it proficiently, I would not feel good about putting in front of people. Also, I think, thanks to all the love that people have for me, I am pretty visible in the dance community now. If I was to go out there and do tribal, I would have to do justice to tribal at the equal level of where I'm in other styles.
I hear you.
I have taken tribal classes actually.
Yeah.
Yes, and I think it's a very beautiful form. I think blending concepts and movements is an interesting thing. For example, in my dancing, because I grew up with Bollywood and I grew up with in a culturally very rich home, I do have conceptual tendencies towards classical Indian dance from the north and Indian folk dances. But because the cultures, like the cultural gestures of the Arab world and the Indian culture are quite similar, other people might not perceive it as, he's fusing.
Right.
Or there are things that are so universal in dance. For example, in a turn, you lead your arm over and something's going to happen up here with the hand.
Right.
At some point, you have to either open it, you have to flip it, like something's going to happen, and it might not stand out as a clear, oh yeah, I see the statement that you're trying to say.
Right.
To me, that's fusion more than blending. I think it's more important to focus on seeing good dance and know where your preferences lay and see the difference between that.
Yeah.
Rather than say, everyone has to dance my preference, otherwise I don't like it.
Yeah.